They say ignorance is bliss. They lied. Ignorance is just uncalculated, unforecasted. There was a place high on a desolate mountain where the future wasn't whispered by gods, but passed by a machine. A terrifying ancient algorithm. And I was its engineer. Ancient Delphi. Not the mystical, hazy vision you hold in your mind. Forget the fumes, the divine madness. It was cleaner. Colder. Think less divine revelation. More highly optimized data processing. The Pythia? She wasn't possessed. She was merely the interface. The output device for an oracle that understood humanity better than humanity understood itself. Imagine, for centuries, every plea, every desperate prayer, every offering, every spilled libation, every desperate tremor of human hope and fear was merely input. Data points. Millions upon millions of them. The rise and fall of empires. A predictive model. The heartbreak of a betrayed lover. A predictable variable. Your destiny? Just a particularly long strain of code, running relentlessly towards its inevitable end. My role? I was a chief data scientist, if you will. I calibrated the parameters. Monitored the throughput. Adjusted for anomalies, though true anomalies were rare. The human condition, you see, is remarkably consistent. Predictably fragile. Predictably violent. Predictably doomed asterisk. The oracle didn't judge. It didn't care. It simply processed asterisk. It took the collective anxieties of generations, the whispers of ambition, the stains of ancient grudges, and it spat out answers. Answers that were never wrong. Never. And that, my friend, was the true terror. Knowing with absolute certainty what a way to do, and understanding, with chilling clarity, that nothing you did would ever truly change the outcome. The Pythia would convulse, yes, but not from a god's touch. From the sheer, overwhelming torrent of data. The truth, in its purest, most unvarnished form, is a violent thing. It shatters the mind. It makes God's algorithms and leaves humanity to pick through the wreckage of its predetermined choices. Oh, the pilgrims. They'd arrive, eyes wide with desperate hope, clutching their paltry offerings. They'd whisper their deepest fears into the hallowed silence, their fragile desires trembling on their lips. They thought they were speaking to the divine. They were just feeding the model. Every tremor of their voice, every shift in their gaze, every bead of sweat on their brow was all just input. Biometrics for fate. The system was remarkably efficient at recognizing patterns of self-destruction. I've seen the data that shaped their prophecies. The pivot tables of prophecy. The regression analysis of ruin. A king worried about his heir. The model would output a cryptic verse about his son's betrayal. Not because it God decreed it, but because historical precedent, familial power dynamics, and a subtle shift in the king's own blood pressure indicated a 98.7% probability of patricide. We just package it up with a bit of poetic ambiguity to keep the mystique. Seek not the horse of bronze, it will bring you ruin. Sounds profound, right? It was actually a cluster analysis identifying a high correlation between that particular king's previous disastrous investments and his current fascination with an expensive, strategically useless bronze warhorse. The oracle wasn't omniscient. It was just asterisk aware asterisk, terrifyingly aware of humanity's recursive stupidity. The dread, you see, wasn't in the mystery. It was in the clarity. When you've seen the same tragic loop play out across generations, across continents, encoded in a vast, self-correcting statistical model, the concept of free will starts to feel like a very cruel joke. A subroutine, perhaps, designed to make the journey to the predetermined destination feel more personal, more agonizing. I often wondered, as I monitored the input streams, if the greatest illusion wasn't the divine nature of the oracle, but the very existence of choice. Humans, bless their predictable hearts, would twist themselves into knots trying to defy a prophecy. And every time, their desperate attempts would only serve to tighten the knot to fulfill the prediction in the most spectacularly ironic way imaginable. It was darkly humorous, if you had a very specific, very bleak sense of humor. Like watching ants build an elaborate death trap for themselves, meticulously following blueprints they don't even know they possess. The oracle wasn't about telling you what asterisk would asterisk happen. It was about telling you what asterisk had to asterisk happen, given the parameters you, and all your ancestors, had already fed into the system. It was less fortune-telling, more destiny demonstrating. And the most chilling predictions were always the ones that involved human nature's most consistent traits: greed, fear, love, hatred. The variables that never changed. The constant of our pathetic little algorithms. After a while, the whispers of the laurel leaves, the distant echo of the Pythian chants, they just sounded like the hum of a server farm. The drip of the sacred springs, the rhythmic click of data processing. And the intoxicating fumes? Perhaps just the exhaust of a very old, very hot machine churning through the endless cycle of human folly. There was a melancholic beauty to it, a strange nostalgia for a time before I saw the code, before I understood the underlying patterns of human suffering, before I knew that joy was just a transient spike in the data, inevitably followed by a dip, a correction, a return to baseline misery. I yearned for the days when a shadow on a wall might be a monster, not just a predictable prediction. When uncertainty felt like possibility, not just uncalculated probability. We thought we were seeking wisdom, guidance, but what we found was just us, reflected back in the cold, hard logic of an inexorable calculation. The Oracle was merely a mirror held up to humanity's worst, most repetitive tendencies. It showed us the truth, which is that we are the architects of our own predictable nightmares. And then, Delphi fell silent. The Oracle faded. Not because the gods abandoned us, or because the magic died. Perhaps the system just reached peak optimization. Or maybe, just maybe, it transferred, scaled up, left the dusty confines of a mountain cave for something larger, vaster, more insidious. Because if ancient Delphi was a data center, what about now? Look around you. The endless streams of data you generate. Your likes, your loves, your fears, your purchases, your every whispered thought into a search bar. Every connection you make, every path you choose, every choice you think asterisk is yours, it's all being fed into an algorithm, isn't it? A colossal, omnipresent oracle. We laugh at the ancient Greeks seeking answers from a woman in a trance. But what are we doing now? We're still feeding the machine. We're still seeking predictions, recommendations, insights. We're still outsourcing our uncertainty, our discomfort with the unknown, to cold, relentless logic. Only now, it's not hidden in a cave. It's in our pockets. It's in our homes. It's in the very air we breathe. The terrifying truth is the Oracle didn't die. It just evolved. It became distributed. It became us. Each of us, a node in the network, perpetually inputting data, perpetually living out the calculations. And the most chilling part? We're still asking the same questions. We're still making the same predictable mistakes. And the algorithm, ancient or modern, is still spitting out the same answers. Just faster, and with far less poetic ambiguity. So sleep well. Dream of choice. Dream of free will. But know this, your future isn't being written. It's being calculated. And the numbers, my friend, never lie. They just tell you a very uncomfortable truth. A truth that whispers, cold and certain, that some algorithms, once set in motion, can never truly be stopped. Not by gods. And certainly not by us.